Hi, my name's Adam Rudolph, and I'm here to just say a few words about the upcoming concert at Roulette, the Interpretation Series, April 14th, 2016. I've composed 3 pieces which will have their world premieres, 2 string quartets that will be performed by the outstanding Momenta String Quartet, and actually the New York premiere of a percussion quartet performed by the Oberlin Percussion Group, who are coming especially in town for that concert. And I'll also be playing a hand drum solo that I will be integrating into some through-composed music played by the Oberlin Percussion Group. As a composer, I'm completely self-taught, so it was very interesting for me to receive a commission from the Momenta Quartet to write this first string quartet called Morphic Resonances. Stephanie Griffin, the violist in the group, plays in my Go Organic Orchestra, and this is a concept I've been developing since the year 2000 of where I use a score, a non-linear score made of interval matrices, interval cosmograms, and also what I call ostinatos of circularity that I conduct in a way that constructs the music. Those are like the DNA elements that construct the music in the moment. So it was a really interesting challenge for me when Stephanie invited me to write a through-composed string quartet without any improvisational elements. I've written hundreds of compositions for musicians who are improvisers. And it turned out to be a grand experience. I was so thrilled how the piece came out. And what was interesting about that piece, and also the new piece that I just completed for them, my second commission from Momenta, was that's called Syntactical Adventures. Is that the same interval matrices, the same materials that I use to generate the music for the Go Organic Orchestra that become combined in the moment in concert, the same elements I used in writing this both of these through-composed pieces. Some of the elements of ostinatos of circularity, what I call my using my rhythm concept called cyclic verticalism, interval systems that I'm interested in, and also my real deep interest in language and language patterns. Like, for example, these matrices and these cosmograms are interesting because the music can be read this way, and this way, this way, and this way, and sometimes this way or this way. So it was a challenge to do it, but I think Momenta liked the piece. They performed it several times, but upon hearing it, I decided to revise it and update it for this concert coming up in April. Another piece that's going to be part of this program is a composition for multi-instrumental percussion quartet called Orbits. And this piece was commissioned by Mike Rosen, who's the director and the teacher, professor of percussion at the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, where coincidentally I went to school. Not coincidentally, the reason I know him is I went to school there, not as a percussion major, but not even as a music major. But he's a longtime friend, and it also was a great challenge for me to think about writing a completely through-composed piece for percussion, even though I've written many compositions for percussion, especially for my Who Vibrational group, which is a multi-percussion group, 7 percussionists. But in that case, it's more where I teach them through orally or through my own notation system. This Orbits piece I wrote in Western notation. But what's interesting to me about approaching all this through composed music, what's important to me is to bring my experience as a percussionist and as an improviser for the last 40 years, bring that to the table. And so, for example, having not really studied composition formally, over the years, I've just, from studying scores and writing and interacting with musicians, and particularly with conducting the Go Organic Orchestra, I got more and more of a sense of things that worked for me and how I wanted elements to be combined. And in another way, what I do as a percussionist, I play hand drums. And so you can learn from a lot of things, of course, observing nature, studying music itself, but also the fact that when the hand strikes the drum, there's actually an infinity of information that is transmitted into you just from that act alone. So trying to tune into what that means to me in terms of doing that probably hundreds or thousands or millions of times in my life. How is that? What kind of gestures? What kind of breath? What kind of language? What do I want to say? I'm so pleased that Mike Rosen agreed. They commissioned me to write. They commissioned me to write Orbits a couple years ago, and the world premiere was at their recital at Oberlin, and I was thrilled that they agreed to actually come all the way here to New York to play the New York premiere of Orbits. It's also been performed now in California Institute of the Arts and in Denmark, South America, and a few other places, so that piece is being played around. But this will be the New York premiere. I'm very excited about it. What I thought to do also is to bring my own hand drum set and play a solo piece, but we're going to play Orbits twice. So the first time they're going to play it through Oberlin Percussion Group from beginning to end. The second time I'm going to open by playing, and then I'm going to cue them to play the piece again while I improvise with them. So there'll actually be two versions of that should be very interesting to hear. As the composer of Orbits, I'm familiar with the materials contained within, and once again, a lot of those materials are my interest, the same kind of interest that I express when I play as a performer and also when I conduct with the Go Organic Orchestra. But it's like a visual artist. You can be interested in sculpture and watercolors or gouache, oil paintings, constructions, all these different things. So for me, as an artist, it's fantastic to have an opportunity to actually play my hand drums, manifest what I do as an improviser, but combine that with the thought patterns and feelings that come through in terms of what I do when I'm working in a more through-composed Western style of notation. And then my thought was, well, why not bring those things back together again in real time in a concert setting? And I think that'll be very exciting for me, for sure, and I think maybe for the audience also, because it'll be a coming together of sort of these thought patterns and ideas, imagination that have gone out and are going to come together in that moment. I think one of the things that's been a consistent area of interest for me as an artist is what I could call process. Because as an artist, as you develop different processes, your art is going to automatically become prototypical. So the process of what I do with Go Organic Orchestra, that means of how I move towards manifesting my ideas, is one way. And then working with a group like my Moving Pictures group, or Who Vibrational, which is more geared towards oral tradition, or in this case using these more traditional through-composed elements. I still have my own process. Since I am self-taught as a composer, I've sort of developed my own process, sort of without any real references of how it's done, to get to where the pieces can manifest when I'm trying to express the feelings that I'm trying to project forth. A beautiful example of this idea of process and prototype is Jackson Pollock, right? Because Jackson Pollock, as we all well know, developed this new technique of moving and dripping the paint, applying the paint and dripping on the canvases on the ground. And so therefore, with using this new process of applying paint, his art was prototypical. We had never seen anything like that before, is amazing. Or when I think about Richard Serra and his massive, amazing metal sculptures he does, so the process of how they put that, how that it needs to be put together, makes the artwork itself be prototypical and different from drawing or something like that. So that's part of what really fascinates me, and where I'm always interested in being aware of and experimenting with different kind of processes and seeing. You have to be willing to experiment, try, maybe fail, try again, and in the end of the day, whatever kind of processes and whatever your imagination and your intuition, intellect lead you into, for me, this is my way of looking at it, what ultimately is coming out has to satisfy the heart. It has to resonate with me in some really yogic way. And I've been practicing yoga for over 40 years now, and what I love about the idea of yoga is it means limbs, right? Body, mind, spirit. And that's how I think about what I do with music. And of course, in India, music is itself considered a high form of yoga. So the body, you know, the feeling of it, in the West we call it groove sometimes, right? I like that. I want to be moved. I want to feel it. Dance, the dance element, the mind, the thought, the fascination of it. You want to hear something, experience something that's really engaging and interesting to you and challenging to you. And then the feeling aspect, which transforms itself into what we can call spirit. The spirit having nothing to do with religion, but just the feeling element of being transformed in some kind of way. So this body, mind, spirit, all those elements have to be resonant for me in the end product, whatever process I experiment with and try. So that's what we're hoping will also connect with the audience in this concert, and really approaching the audience with a certain kind of respect that we're all sharing some kind of experience together.